What if Noah had said no? What if a single choice changed the fate of humanity? Picture the scene. God looks down on earth and sees a world consumed by corruption and wickedness, a world where justice seems like a forgotten legend. But in the midst of chaos, a divine voice calls out with a message of hope to an ordinary man, Noah. Now, think with me. What if Noah had said no? Have you ever stopped to consider the impact a single decision can have? In the story we know, Noah obeyed, built the ark, and saved not only his family, but all of creation. However, today, we will explore what might have happened if he had refused this mission. What would a world without the ark look like? What would have happened to humanity and God's divine plan? Get ready, because what you're about to hear may change how you view obedience, purpose, and the consequences of our choices. This isn't just an exercise in imagination. It's a perspective that might transform the way you approach your own life. Before we dive into this alternate story, let me ask you, what would the impact be if you also refused the call to something greater? Now, it's time to journey into the what if of one of the Bible's most iconic stories. Let's go. Noah, an ordinary man living in extraordinarily dark times. Imagine an era when the earth was filled with violence and corruption, where values were completely distorted. Noah, however, was different. Amid so much wickedness, he found favor in God's eyes. He was a righteous and blameless man among his contemporaries, someone who walked with God in a world that seemed to have entirely forgotten him. But who was Noah beyond the title of Ark Builder? He was a father, a husband, and someone who likely faced the same doubts and struggles as anyone. What set him apart was his unwavering faith and willingness to obey, even when everything around him said otherwise. Imagine the weight of being chosen for such a grand and misunderstood mission. While building the ark, Noah was ridiculed, called crazy, and likely faced loneliness. Yet, he persevered. Noah teaches us that obedience isn't always easy or popular. He was human, with fears and insecurities, but his connection with God guided him. And that's why his story is so powerful. It wasn't about the ark itself, but about trusting God when human logic fails. Now, as we prepare to explore an alternative version, remember, even the greatest heroes of faith began as ordinary people facing extraordinary decisions. Noah's story begins in a context of moral decay. The earth was filled with violence, corruption, and sin. In his justice, God decided the world needed a fresh start. He revealed to Noah that a great flood would come to cleanse the earth, but offered a plan of salvation, the construction of an ark. Imagine the impact of this message on Noah. He was to build a massive vessel on dry land, with no sign of rain in sight, a monumental project that would require time, resources, and unshakable faith. God was clear in his instructions. The size, materials, and even the internal details of the ark were specified. This mission defied all human logic. As Noah began building, opposition arose. His neighbors and acquaintances mocked him. "A boat in the middle of nowhere. Where's this rain you keep talking about?" they said, with sarcastic laughter. With every hammer strike, Noah not only constructed the ark, but also demonstrated his trust in God. He worked tirelessly, knowing the fruit of his labor would only make sense in the future. In addition, Noah was tasked with gathering a pair of every species of animal. This task was a miracle in itself. Imagine the logistics. He had to care for, feed, and ensure the safety of all the animals during the flood. Yet Noah didn't question. He trusted that if God had called him, he would also provide. The flood came, as foretold. The first drops of rain were seen, and what once seemed impossible became undeniable. The heavens opened, and water covered the earth. Noah and his family, along with the animals, were protected inside the ark. For 40 days and 40 nights, the world transformed into a vast ocean. Everything outside the ark perished. At the end of the flood, As the waters receded, Noah sent out a dove to check for dry land. When it returned with an olive branch, it was a sign that renewal was near. Finally, the ark rested on Mount Ararat, and God made a new covenant with Noah, symbolized by a rainbow. That's the story we know, a narrative of obedience, faith, and redemption. But now, imagine the turning point. What if, in the moment God called Noah, he had refused? "This is too crazy," he might have said. "Why me? I don't have the time or resources for this." That choice of disobedience would have changed everything. And this is where our journey into the what if truly begins. Now imagine, Noah hears the divine call, but decides the weight of the responsibility is too great. He considers the challenges, the improbability of gathering all the animals, the years of hard work ahead, and, with a heavy sigh, responds, "I can't do this." God's message echoes into the void as Noah returns to his ordinary life, believing that perhaps someone else will be chosen for the task. But there was no other plan. Without the construction of the ark, the flood came, as announced. The rains began to fall, timidly at first, but soon turned into torrents, submerging everything in their path. The people who had mocked Noah now ran desperately seeking shelter, but there was nowhere to hide. Entire mountains disappeared beneath the waters, and creation was destroyed. Without the ark, the world became void of life. Humanity perished, the animals became extinct, and the earth turned into a vast aquatic desert. The promise of renewal, of a fresh start, was lost. A profound silence enveloped the planet, broken only by the sound of unrelenting waters. The rainbow, a symbol of hope and covenant, never appeared in the sky. In this alternate universe, Noah's disobedience nullified God's plan of redemption. The faith Noah was meant to demonstrate would have been the bridge to preserve creation, but his refusal broke the cycle of renewal. This somber story shows us how individual decisions can have unimaginable consequences. But what about you? Have you ever hesitated when faced with an important call, fearing the cost or difficulty? In the real story, Noah chose to trust, and his faith saved the world. In this version, his refusal led to total destruction. This is the weight and power of choices. What might have been different if Noah had said yes? Looking at this alternative story, it's impossible not to reflect on the impact of our choices. Noah wasn't a superhero. He was a human being with flaws, fears, and doubts. Yet his obedience to God became the bridge between destruction and renewal. In the alternate version, we see what happens when fear and hesitation prevail. A world without redemption, without hope, without a future. How often are we, like Noah, called to something greater? God presents us with missions, challenges, and purposes that might seem impossible at first glance. And just as Noah could have done, we often hesitate. We think about the difficulties, the criticisms we might face, the time and effort required. But when we say yes, we open the door for God to do the impossible through us. This story isn't just about Noah, it's about all of us. It reminds us that obedience to God isn't merely an act of faith, it's a vital step toward fulfilling the greater purpose He has for our lives. God's call might seem heavy, but the reward is incomparable. For Noah, it was the salvation of all creation. For us, it could mean the transformation of lives, including our own. So let me ask you, what's your ark? What is the call God has placed in your life? Are you willing to trust and obey even when everything around you says it's crazy? Or will you choose the easier path, refusing the purpose He has prepared for you? Remember, a single choice can change everything. Just as Noah had the power to decide, so do you. May our decisions be guided by faith so that we can become instruments in God's divine plan, bringing renewal and hope to the world around us. It's amazing that you've made it this far. But now, let's hear from you. What did you think of this what if? This alternative story about Noah is a powerful reminder of how our choices shape our destiny and that of those around us. If you found this intriguing, why not share your thoughts in the comments? We'd love to hear, how do you think the world would have been different if Noah had refused God's call? And don't stop there. We have many more biblical stories for you to explore together. Have you ever imagined a universe where David didn't face Goliath? Or where Moses remains in Egypt and becomes Pharaoh? These and more what-if scenarios are waiting for you in future episodes. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to continue following stories that challenge our perspective and lead us to deep reflections. Share this with your friends and family and help spread these messages that combine creativity and faith. See you in the next episode, where we will continue exploring the what-if side of the most remarkable stories in the Bible. Stay tuned, and in the meantime, remember, every choice matters. See you soon.